Hey, Clemson family. Of course, I said there was zero chance for the Tigers to beat the Irish. I said that a couple of weeks ago and last week, and today I will literally eat my words.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Shirley. This is going to be gross. So let's just get on with it. Get it over with. It has nothing to do with me. I'm going to look this way or close my eyes. I don't want any part of this.
I don't want any part of it either, except for the fact that Clemson beat Notre Dame, and we will also talk about the changes that enabled that to happen, and just what a different look from Clemson this week on offense. I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to the Supreme Alway podcast. This is season two. Like I said, we're kind of closing in on 100 episodes, way behind Dabo Sweeney's school record 166 victories. But maybe we'll gain some ground. We do more than 12 to 15 episodes a year, so we'll try to get there and maybe match up with him at some point. You can catch us youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff and add your reactions. Call me out for the things that I've gotten wrong, as I am self-reporting today in a not so fun way for me anyway. A lot of people wouldn't be bothered by what I'm about to do, but I picked a food that I do not like. I couldn't just put icing on a cupcake and say, "Oh, I paid my price," right? But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the Tigers. 31-23 over Notre Dame. Very effective offense, controlling possession like they have failed to do so many times this year, moving the ball, jumped out to a pretty good lead midway through the game, and I was just trying not to say a lot because I didn't want to undo it. And then, sure enough, at the end, they did give Notre Dame an unnecessary final shot at tying the game at the very least. And who knows what happens in overtime if they get there. It did not get there. The defense, led by Jeremiah Trotter, probably a career best game for him. You would think he was just all over the place. But that offense was really what changed things, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, at least for 2.5 quarters, right? I mean, I thought that they had two drives Saturday where I said that's the best drive they've had the whole year.
Yeah.
And the one was when Dominique Thomas came in the first half, and they just had and Cade Klubnik was perfect on the drive with the slants, and then Tyler Brown scores the touchdown. And I thought that's the most efficient drive they've had the entire season, and I don't know that there was one even closer or close to it. And then in the second half, when Notre Dame cuts it to a one-score game, they're early in the second half, right when Cade throws the pick, or the pick came off a tip ball off of Bo Collins' hands. They went right down the field and scored a touchdown, and that might be the biggest drive of the whole season. If they could somehow win out, and they're 9-4 in end of December when they play the bowl game, I think we'll point back to that second drive in the second half, because they had the pick on the first drive. Notre Dame scores, and they go right down the field and score a touchdown. And I thought, okay, that's what this offense should look like. The Troy Stellato had a huge catch
Yeah.
over the middle where he held onto the ball. It was a contested catch. Bo Collins made up for the drop, and that was a drop. I'm sorry, that's a drop. That
Hmm. Yep.
on the pick, but he makes up for it on 3rd and 6 or 7 and gets the first down, and then Phil Mafah scores the touchdown. So I thought Jeremiah Trotter, if there's a defensive player of the year of the week award, he gets it. I don't know who could have had a better day than him defensively across the country with what he did Saturday. But the offense is what we have not seen. We've seen this defense play like that before. I mean, they gave up, you know, really what 16 points. You don't really put the 1 yard drive on the defense, but
Right.
that's about what they've done all year. The offense has not looked like that all year, except for maybe the Florida State game. And it was, especially in the first half, it was efficient. It was on point. Not perfect. Absolutely not perfect. There were some things there that they got to clean up, but the Mafah long touchdown run, his big day. I just thought that's what this team can be if they don't turn the ball over. Now, then they turn it over twice in the second half, and you're like, don't do that. But no, I was really impressed with the offense, especially the offensive line. I think that's the best game the offensive line's played in 4 years.
Right. Well, and let's talk about the change there, minimizing, nearly, I would say, nearly eliminating the guard tackle pull concept that has just given them so much trouble since that Wake Forest game that should have been a blowout and was a narrow victory. Probably should have beaten Miami. Definitely should have beaten NC State. Going away, that's not a good team that they lost to there. And the offense just couldn't click, just couldn't get things going. They switched to more of a power blocking, zone blocking. I've heard it called multiple things. Apparently, they've run different things within the game. There was a little bit of guard tackle pull here and there, but just so much more effective. Just going out and look. Let's oversimplify how I'm going to talk about it. Put a hat on a hat. Go out and get a guy. Take care of your area or take care of your man, whatever it is. It really, especially in the run game, allowed for a lot. And then when you combine that with Mafah being RB1 because of Shipley being out, Mafah had better reads, I think, behind the line. You saw him kick it outside on one point and go for a 40-plus yard touchdown because he was willing to take what was there and not just run as hard as he could and as fast as he could to the place that was, in the playbook diagram or to where he thought a hole might open up, perhaps. Just a very effective game, career high for Mafah, showing why you and I liked him so much leading into this season and really living up to all the good things you said about him coming out of high school there in North Georgia.
Yeah, I was a big fan of him coming out of Grayson High School. I thought he had a chance to be special. He's not a burner, but he's not slow. I mean, he ran past the secondary of Notre Dame on Saturday on that long touchdown run. And I think he does read the holes really well. And look, the first 2 plays of the game, they go 10 plays, then they go 5 plays with him. And I texted you at that point, 15 yards on 2 plays, and then they went away from him. And then there was the drive. I think it was one of those drives in the second half where they had the 8-point lead and they've got to, just score one more time. And it feels like you take control of the game. They get the ball at midfield and they threw the ball 3 times. And I texted you at the time, why aren't they giving him the ball in that spot? And, look, this is not a shot at Will Shipley. I think Shipley is a good back.
Sure.
I think that there was this expectation that he was Travis Etienne. He's not Travis Etienne. And Phil Mafah is not either. I mean, Travis Etienne is one of the 2 or 3 best backs that Clemson's ever had.
Yeah.
And I put that C.J. Spiller, Terry Allen,
right,
Travis Etienne group in my lifetime that I've seen play. So I know a lot of people don't put Terry Allen in that group, but I do because and he didn't play his senior year. But I think that Travis Etienne is in that group. These guys aren't that, but they're really good players. They just have to have, like any running back, you have to have holes to run through. And Davos, when he said yesterday, they wanted to cover people up. And that's what worked. And you would hope that they will stick with that. Now, maybe the defensive scheme for Notre Dame played into that. Maybe the scheme for Tech or North Carolina or South Carolina won't. I don't know, although South Carolina hasn't stopped anybody really all year. But I think, and North Carolina hasn't either, really, have they? So we'll see. But I would love to see that a little bit more, and I would love to see the 2 backs split the carries a lot more. We talked about that before the season. I love the 2 back set. We haven't seen it very much this year because I think they're 2 of your best off players, and I think having them out there together throws the defense into a little bit of chaos because you don't know which one's going to get the ball. But I would like to see the offensive line continue to do what it did Saturday. Trent Howard played really well, and he has really struggled since he's been there. And I thought he played his best game. I thought Blake Miller played his best game. And again, maybe that's and look, Putnam's a rock in the middle of the line.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any problems with Putnam, although he had some problems with the snap on Saturday.
That's going to happen, though.
It's going to happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Notre Dame's got All-American at nose guard. If that happens, you kind of have to live with that. But I thought those guys on the line who played some of the best ball they've played since they've been in school.
Yep. And this is where I have to pay my penance, because I said it was in the trenches that Clemson had, and this is hard to read, but I used the squirt bottle. No shot. That is an O, not an I. No shot. Versus ND. Also hard to read. I'm a terrible squeeze bottle writer. I hate mayonnaise. I despise mayonnaise. I mean, if I was going to eat like a spoonful of mayonnaise like Andy Staples did back when he was at the Athletic with you and he had that podcast and lost a bet, I would have the same disgusting reaction that was very unfortunate for Andy. I've met him before. Super good guy.
Great guy. Great guy.
Yeah. Well,
look, I like mayonnaise. I don't like it on what you're about to. I don't. Look, I like mayonnaise on a sandwich with some ham in the middle or some turkey. The sandwich, the mayonnaise is the. It's not the star of the show. It's the
villain of the show.
It's an extra. It's not the villain. You're the villain. You're the villain, and you're paying your penance for being the villain. But no, I would not do.
We're co-villains.
That's why I don't bet. I don't gamble. I don't bet on stuff. I don't wear other people's gear, like other schools' gear. I don't wear pro teams' gear. I don't bet on sports. I don't say stuff like that. All right, that's enough. You don't have to eat all of it.
I do. I brought this on myself.
Well, wait till we're done with the podcast and then finish the rest of it off. Jenny will let us know if you didn't eat it all.
No. Well, she will too.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I got. Oh.
Is it that bad? Now, what are you drinking? Is that Coke or Pepsi?
It's a soda. Yeah. No product placement. It is a soda. Try to help myself out there.
Yeah, we need a sponsor. If they'll sponsor us, we'll give them a placement, right?
Yeah, there's a certain bowl game that might be interested in this too, right? Again, no.
Are we gonna dump the bucket on your head next time, like Shane Beamer?
I mean, here's the bottle, you know.
All right.
We're down here in Florida, so
is
we
that
just
like
started
fat?
hitting
is
that.
It fat free or anything, or is it just regular?
It's light. It's light. Usually we got the olive oil kind. This is light.
I'm a Duke's guy myself.
Brands not to be mentioned by me. You can. I don't care. But
I grew up on Duke's mayonnaise, and you grew up in South Carolina. You eat Duke's mayonnaise. If you don't, people give you dirty looks. So kind of like the looks you're making right now. Oh my God! Well, look.
What else can we talk about? How about that defense? Yeah.
How about the
give
defense?
me some positive thoughts.
Well, look, we talk about playing their best game since they've been on the team. I thought Xavier Thomas played the best game he's ever played at Clemson. I know we're going to point to the Syracuse game that year and the hit on.
Well,
was it Schrader?
But that was Dungy, wasn't it? Eric Dungy at the end there.
Was it Dungy? It's one of those guys at the end of that game, and that's kind of the play that he'll be remembered for. Throughout his, as he finishes his career and goes and does whatever's next. Hopefully he has a long NFL career. But I thought he played the best he's played start to finish the entire game Saturday. And he gave their right tackle hell the whole game. And he got called. There was one holding call. There were like 5 other holdings that weren't called. There was one in the end zone
with him, right?
Yeah, there was one in the end zone that you mentioned that should have been a safety. There was one down near the end zone that they actually called and made it 2nd and 15 or whatever it was. But there was another one right after that they didn't call.
Yeah.
I thought he played his heart out on Saturday.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know that that's always been the case with him. Dabo's talked about how inconsistent he's been. But you saw a guy Saturday that or you saw a guy Saturday who was like, okay, this is my game. And look, Trotter's the star of the show. I mean, there's no doubt about that with what he did. Those 2 sacks where he gave the running backs a little wiggle and they whiffed on the block, that's NFL stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I told Matt, our son here, I said, Jeremiah Trotter made himself a lot of money on Saturday because NFL scouts are going to see that and go, oh my gosh, the 2 sacks, the pick, where you're just, it's just perfect. He did that. I mean, that you could not, an NFL 15-year veteran could not have played that play any better than Jeremiah Trotter did. So I just, yeah, the defense was great. I thought Avion Terrell played really well. There were other guys that played really well also. I thought Makuba played well. The tackling was better.
Yeah, better.
There were some issues early, but the
Early
tackling was
against
better.
Audric Estime, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. And
Boy,
look, and they struggled against the crossing patterns a little bit. They
maybe he
struggled.
was covered in mayonnaise and they were afraid of him.
That's what it was. They struggled keeping Sam Hartman in the pocket. And that's going to be huge this week because that's what Haynes King does is he
Yeah.
runs and runs and runs as a Georgia Tech quarterback. So they've got to get that stuff cleaned up. But look, they held them to field goals for the most part. They let them drive a couple of times and they made them kick field goal, and that turns out to be the difference in the game. So I that was a win that you went. And look, I think Notre Dame is quite what people think Notre Dame is either. I don't think they're a great team. But that was a win where you go, and Dabo said this, 5 years from now, you might point back to that win and go, okay, see, that's where this run started. Now they got to back it up. But that looked like Clemson that we've seen for the past decade. We haven't seen that very much. We saw it. When's the last time we saw Clemson look like that in a big game?
Right.
North Carolina last year in the championship game. Was there one before that, the year before? It felt like everything was a South Carolina. They beat the brakes off South Carolina. But, yeah. I mean, come on. They should have. South Carolina wasn't very good. But I don't.
Should have beat the brakes off them last year, too.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that looked like the team that we thought Clemson would be at the start of the season. And it was, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a rout. It wasn't a 40-10 win or anything. Now at 24-9, you felt like after the Trotter pick 6 that it could have been something like that. Or I guess it was 24-6 at that point because Notre Dame scored a kicked field goal after that. But they just looked different Saturday, Bill. They looked focused. They looked ready. And look, all the reports out the Dabo, as Michael Jordan said on the Last Dance, got in some ass during the week, and went after some guys and challenged people. And look, maybe that's what this team needs. Every team is different. Some teams you got to be positive with them, but maybe this team needed to be challenged. And whatever worked last week, do it again this week, right? So you don't have to eat mayonnaise on the podcast next week.
I'm almost done. I'm just down I'm on the home stretch here.
Oh my God.
I really, yeah. I mean, look, Tyler from Spartanburg, the whole call. We're not the only people out there being critical of Clemson this year. The message boards are just brutal this year. But and look, rooted in accuracy, right? Maybe a little over the top. I mean, we try not to, go out of our way to say things that are just uncalled for on this show. We don't want to be hot take about it. The changes really enabled this. And one more that we didn't. Well, first of all, by the way, a change that really could have hurt them were all the guys out in the secondary.
Oh my gosh!
Instead, you got Avion Terrell playing really well, which I had I was just on the verge of being disappointed in him not being much of a factor this year. And look at the game he had. Kylan Griffin in
Colin
position
Griffin. Yep.
when he needed to be to get that late pick. It should have sealed the game if not for the Mafah fumble that followed. But just a heck of a play, a Nolan Turner type interception on a errant throw. Don't get me wrong, but
But
just to have
that's
the
his
wits
job.
about him. Yeah,
Right.
that to be where he needed to be,
Yep.
and then also to realize, hey, I'll get a few yards, but then I'm going to fall on this thing. Like there was no hero ball there, right? Did what he should have done.
Right.
Protect possession of the ball. You'd like to see Clemson's offensive players do that more often as well. Yeah, we still had Klubnik on a shaky throw that becomes a drop that becomes an INT, and you got Mafah with the poor ball security late. There's still things to be done here. I really think it was more about getting that offensive line fixed up, propped up, in a position where it could succeed as a group, and it rubbed off on everyone around them, especially Mafah, of course. Also enabled, Sage Ennis in there blocking more, and Burning Stool split wide more often, another factor in why that running game was better. And I was really concerned when Ennis got drilled
Yeah.
on a ball that didn't have a lot of velocity on it, but he was wide open. All it did was give the DB, I think it was a safety, might have been a linebacker, time to kind of line up a full shot, on the guy. And
He
fortunately,
made the
Ennis was
catch.
okay. Yeah, he made the
He made
catch,
the
protected the
catch.
ball, got back
Absolutely.
in the game after a while, and hopefully it was just a stinger or soreness or something like that. Glad he's okay. It's nothing, it wasn't a head and neck shot like took out Shipley the week before. This team has a chance to do a lot. It's got to continue to find that motivating factor now that it's got some X's and O's factor, because Georgia Tech has some guys who have been around the whole time. Not everybody transferred out of there, thanks to Jeff Collins. Brent Key, I think, has been a wise choice. He's 4-2 in the ACC. That's hard to argue with, right? He's been a smart guy to elevate into a head coaching position, a guy who's been ready to take a head coaching job for several years, worked with Nick Saban, worked with George O'Leary. Hopefully has a more accurate resume than the latter of those two. Um, really, you have to take Georgia Tech seriously. What did you and I say in the preseason? You have to take Duke seriously or they'll beat you. You have to take Georgia Tech seriously along those same lines. And if they want to, the quote was out there, coach challenged them to, run the table in November, undefeated in November. Well, you know, can't think that way. You've got to treat Georgia Tech as an important opponent, like
Oh no,
Manic.
yeah, you do. I look, Georgia Tech has played really well. I mean, you look at their schedule; they've got a couple of losses where you go, "Oh my, how did you lose to Bowling Green? Right? How did you lose to
Mhm.
Boston College?" Now, Boston College has turned things around second half of the season, but they beat North Carolina, they beat Miami. Clemson lost to Miami. I know that Miami gave them the win, but they still had to make a play at the end or two plays at the end after the fumble. Um, so no, absolutely. Georgia Tech is a formidable opponent. I saw the line was like 18 and a half at the start of the week. I'm like, what in the world is that? I don't think Clemson can beat anybody by 18 and a half this
Well,
year.
and that's public perception affecting
Sure.
the money line, right? I
Absolutely.
mean,
Well,
X's and O's, they're not really 18 points better than Georgia Tech before kickoff.
well,
I
and
hope they will be by the end of the game.
right. Well, and you also have to know too, they want to set a line that's going to make people bet.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
they're not saying Georgia Tech is 18 points worse than Clemson. They're saying they want you to bet at that line, and then they'll move the line after you bet Georgia Tech.
And
So
at 5-4 overall, Georgia Tech is going to be tougher to draw in betters,
yes,
for the casinos.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you know
I'm,
the game they're playing,
I'm down to
finish
just bread crust now, by the
finish
way.
the
So
last bite. So
my words have been eaten.
put some more
Uh,
mayonnaise on it before you take the
Hat
last bite.
tip. Jenny put it back in the fridge. That's my
Ah.
story. I'm sticking to it. Hey, I've had enough self accountability for one day.
Oh, oh, that's why I don't do it, man. I'm not betting
Oh,
on anything. I'm not saying it. But no, I think they absolutely, if they play the way they played the first half Saturday in all three phases. And how about Aiden Swanson?
hmm
We talk about MVPs on Saturday. you're going to talk Phil Mafah. You're going to talk Jeremiah Trotter. I mentioned Xavier Thomas. You got to mention Aiden Swanson. That's as
Yep.
good of a punting game as we've seen since Chris Gardocki.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Chris Gardocki all day said, how many times did he put them inside the 10-yard line Saturday? And I know Klubnik had one on the punt pass option, as Davo called it.
And I thought they were going to do it a second time at the very final snap of the game. I thought they might do it again, try to run out the clock that way. He was fortunately able to just throw it like you figured they would.
But I thought Aiden Swanson was great. I thought the offensive line was strong. The defensive line, I didn't think the defensive line would be able to control Notre Dame the way they did, especially after the first drive.
Right.
But they did.
Well, with the trouble at defensive end, they're thin at defensive end. They had to put Ruka Rororo out there. I didn't really notice a lot of him, so that's a good thing, I hope, right?
Sorry, I had to cough there. Yeah, I thought Rook played really well, and look, maybe that's an alignment you go with. Maybe that being big helps set the edge a little bit more. And they've struggled with that this year, so we'll see. I think they if they can coach and play like they did Saturday, they should win the rest of their regular season games. And now the bowl game, we'll see who they play. Who knows, right? But they, if you'd have told me they were going to throw for 109 yards and be in control of the game the whole game, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah.
They've got to get the passing game going a little bit better, but focus, and play like that. Then all bets are off for this program. I mean, or for this team. They can go on a run here in November and set something up for next year, maybe.
Which kind of was our theme, the previous couple of episodes, an unexpected episode here today, some positive things that we were able to say that I don't think either one of us thought before kickoff we'd be talking about. So check us out, youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. All our previous episodes are there. You can hear my declaration the last couple of weeks that made me just suffer through a food I don't like. We will be back after the Georgia Tech game. You will notice I avoided absolutes, so I don't have to do that again. Until that next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.